Have you ever wondered how some people move through the world untouched, unnoticed, yet everything bends around them? They speak little, reveal less, but somehow end up with all the power. In a time where everyone is shouting to be seen, the smartest man in the room is the one who remains silent. If Niccolo Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be online arguing. He wouldn't be seeking attention. He would be crafting outcomes behind closed doors, letting others take credit while he shapes the direction. He would turn perception into leverage, doubt into control, and absence into dominance. But this isn't about ancient philosophy and old books. This is about how those principles would unfold right now. How someone like Machiavelli would outsmart the bold, outlast the loud, and outmaneuver the naive using quiet rules most never see coming. Not theory, not fiction. Just 21 psychological principles forged through stillness, sharpened by strategy, and mastered through restraint. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to know where to stand when everyone else is distracted. Stay with me. This may change how you see the world and how the world sees you. Rule 1. Let them underestimate you. In a world obsessed with performance and noise, the true master of power moves in silence, while others rush to showcase their intelligence, to dominate the room with their voices and their resumes. The wise man waits. He walks in without needing to be seen because he already knows what they do not. That true control comes not from being the loudest, but from being the last to speak. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. The one who is underestimated is the one who sees the whole battlefield before anyone else draws a sword. So let them dismiss you. Let them believe you are harmless. Smile quietly as they reveal everything, unaware that in their overconfidence they hand you the advantage. Like the seasoned general who watches the enemy celebrate too early, you hold your power close, knowing that timing is everything. Power is not in being recognized. Power is in being forgotten until your presence changes the entire outcome. The Stoics teach us to preserve our inner strength, to need no applause and seek no validation. Because when you no longer crave recognition, you become unpredictable. And when you are unpredictable, you become unstoppable. Rule 2. Turn charm into power. In this age where appearance eclipses substance, people do not follow what is true. They follow what is beautifully packaged. Machiavelli would not waste time arguing for his virtue. He would shape perception, knowing that the crowd follows stories, not facts. He would enter a room not as a threat, but as a friend. His words gentle, his demeanor warm, but underneath he would be moving with precision, planting subtle narratives and guiding others toward conclusions he designed in silence. That is the difference between persuasion and honesty. To be good is one thing, but to appear good is power. Most people are busy defending their reputation. The wise man understands it is more effective to design one, while others beg to be seen for who they truly are. He creates a version of himself that disarms and distracts, not out of malice, but out of mastery. Because truth can be questioned, but charm disarms logic. Stoicism reminds us that what matters is not what they think of us, but what we do in silence. So let them believe you are a savior while you clear the board of threats. Power is not about control, it is about belief. And if they believe in you more than they should, you have already won. Rule 3. Use ambiguity as a shield. The world craves clarity. People demand answers. They want to know who you are, what you stand for, and how you feel. But Machiavelli knew that the moment they understand you, they can control you. That is why he would never allow himself to be fully read. One day cold, the next day kind, one moment deeply present, the next withdrawn and silent, not out of confusion, but out of intent, because uncertainty generates attention, and attention breeds power. When people cannot define you, they begin to study you. They overanalyze your tone. They reread your messages. They replay your silences. In their search for clarity, they orbit your mystery. They become trapped not by your strength, but by their own curiosity. That is how you control a room without raising your voice. Not by stating your position, but by refusing to be pinned down. Ambiguity becomes your shield. Confusion becomes your weapon. The Stoics taught us to be indifferent to the opinions of others. But what if you could use their obsession with definition to bend reality itself? You become a mirror that shows them what they want to see. And while they are busy guessing, you are already 10 steps ahead. Do not explain. Do not defend. Let silence do the talking. Because when people cannot understand you, they cannot predict you. And what they cannot predict, they cannot defeat. Rule 4. Reveal the result, not the path. In a world where visibility is currency, the wise do not spend it recklessly, while most people are obsessed with showcasing their every move, their plans, their progress. The true strategist keeps his hand cloaked. Machiavelli would not move loudly. He would not broadcast his steps in real time. He would let the world see just enough to believe they know him, while quietly operating beyond their line of sight. Because once people understand your process, they begin to map it, and once they map it, they will plot against it. They will set traps, build counterforces, turn your transparency into their advantage. That is why a true master of power appears open but remains guarded. He will share outcomes, never blueprints. He will celebrate results, but never reveal the engine that produced them. Like a fortress that shows only its gates but never its secret passages, he preserves control by keeping the architecture of his strength hidden. The Stoics teach us to value control not over others, but over the self. And in a noisy world, self-restraint is the most potent form of discipline. Do not explain your routines. Do not detail your systems. Let them underestimate your quiet, then overwhelm them with the suddenness of your rise. While others flood the feed with noise, you become the silence that rewrites the narrative. Control the image. Guard the mechanism. Let curiosity drive them mad while you build uninterrupted. Rule 5. Let the mask crack strategically. Machiavelli understood the psychology of obsession. People do not fixate on perfection. They forget it. But introduce a fracture, a glimpse of something hidden beneath the surface, and now you haunt them. So build a mask. Make it impressive, calm, articulate, measured. Let the world believe they understand who you are. Then, at the right moment, let it slip. Not as a mistake, but as design. Reveal a flash of sharpness, a sentence that cuts deeper than expected, a vulnerability so precise it feels rehearsed. Why? Because people chase what they cannot explain. Give them most of the puzzle, then remove one piece. That missing part becomes their obsession. A wise ruler cultivates the image of virtue, but keeps the capacity for ruthlessness hidden beneath it. You appear composed. They trust your balance. And just when they begin to relax, you let them sense something darker, not to frighten, but to remind. Power is not in being liked. Power is in being remembered. The Stoic knows that to be misunderstood is not weakness, but armor. Let them wonder what lies behind the mask. Let them see just enough to stay curious, but never enough to feel secure. It is not the mask that grants you power. It is the moment it fractures and they realize they never knew you at all. Rule 6. Master the art of saying less. Words, when overused, become noise, but words chosen with discipline become instruments of power. Machiavelli knew that silence often speaks louder than speech. In a negotiation, he would not argue. In conflict, he would not explain. He would offer one line and let the room hang in its echo. Because in silence, people begin to invent. They start asking questions, filling gaps, creating narratives, and in those narratives they project their own fears. What is he thinking? Why is he quiet? What does he know that we do not? Now you have done nothing, but they have done everything to themselves. The man who says little owns the tempo. He dictates the rhythm. The others speak to fill space. You speak to change direction. This is not manipulation. This is control over impulse, and Stoicism teaches exactly that. The sage does not speak to soothe his insecurity. He speaks when there is necessity. Every word is deliberate, every pause intentional. Speak less. Let your presence do the talking. Let your eyes deliver what the mouth refuses. Because true power is not in how much you say, but in how little you need to. When you stop explaining, you start to command. Rule 7. Blur the line between ally and threat. In a world where everyone is desperate to label friend or foe, Machiavelli understood the true weapon was ambiguity. When people know you are a threat, they prepare their defense. But when they believe you are neutral, they let down their guard. That is when the strategist moves. He would sit beside rivals, toast with his enemies, praise the very ones he planned to surpass. Why? Because uncertainty disarms more effectively than confrontation. The lion may terrify, but it is the fox who survives the trap. To outsmart your opponents, you must be both. Compliment their ideas right before you surpass them. Smile in agreement just before you remove them. Stay silent while they question your stance. And by the time they recognize your move, it is far too late. Power lies not in being obvious, but in being unreadable. Rule 8. Make them feel safe before you take control. The sharpest blade is hidden in the softest cloth. Machiavelli would never confront his opponent head-on. He would comfort them, echo their language, reflect their confidence, make them believe he was learning from them, following them. All the while he was advancing, because the easiest way to take power is not to seize it but to be handed it by someone who thinks you are harmless. And when they finally feel safe, he would act with clarity and speed. No threats, just precision. The Stoics teach us to move without anger. Machiavelli teaches us to move without warning. Rule 9. Build dependency, then withdraw. To control someone fully, do not dominate them. Serve them quietly, consistently. Teach what no one else can, solve what no one else dares, and become essential in ways they never expected. Then, one day, vanish. No fight. No farewell, just absence, because nothing disturbs the soul more than losing what it once dismissed. Machiavelli became irreplaceable, not by asking for loyalty, but by becoming the standard they never saw coming. You do not need to be remembered fondly, you only need to be remembered, and nothing carves memory deeper than the silence of a missing presence. Rule 10. Turn every favor into leverage. Most people offer help hoping to be liked, to win affection, to be seen as kind. But Machiavelli would never make such a sentimental mistake. His help was never charity, it was currency. Every favor he extended carried weight, not in gold, but in psychology. If he gave you an advantage, a solution, or even a shortcut, he made sure you felt it. He did not demand anything in return. He didn't need to. He allowed the imbalance to speak louder than any request. That quiet tension, that sense of owing, became the leash. You begin to feel small, grateful, and that is precisely the position he wanted you in. He did not remind you directly. He would say, just enough. Remember that time one sentence, enough to tighten the rope. Because true favors are not repaid in words, they are repaid in silence, in loyalty, in secrets you offer without being asked. Over time, you no longer know whether you admire him or fear what you owe, and that is the art. The Stoics remind us that the wise man gives without attachment. But Machiavelli knew that the powerful man gives with strategic purpose. The favor, once internalized, becomes a burden. And the longer it is unacknowledged, the heavier it grows. Rule 11. Create loyalty through complicity. Loyalty is rarely built through kindness. It is built through entanglement. Machiavelli did not wait for admiration. He crafted complicity. He would never order someone to betray. He would simply make space for it to happen. He would let them speak ill of someone to him, let them bend a rule quietly in his favor, let them offer a truth they were supposed to protect. No pressure, no coercion. Just an open door, and people, guided by ego and desire, would walk through it themselves. In doing so, they linked themselves to him, not because they loved him, but because they had already invested their reputation in his hands. People protect what they are ashamed of losing. So once someone has compromised for your benefit, they are no longer just your ally. They are your asset. And the deeper the betrayal, the tighter the chain. The Stoic might say we are bound by virtue. Machiavelli would respond that most are bound by guilt. If you want loyalty that lasts, do not inspire it, engineer it. Rule 12. Break alliances from within. Machiavelli did not waste energy attacking structures directly. He understood that the strongest alliances rarely collapse from external pressure. They crumble from within. He would enter quietly, observe carefully, and then begin the subtle dismantling. He would not argue. He would suggest. He would not accuse. He would hint. A few words whispered in the right ear. I heard he questioned your judgment. Have you noticed how she always takes credit for your ideas? He never framed it as betrayal, just reflection, just observation, and soon suspicion would take root. Trust, once cracked, rarely heals cleanly. Members would begin to doubt one another. Loyalty would turn into silence, and without a single visible strike, the alliance would collapse. The Stoics believed in the discipline of perception, but Machiavelli mastered the weaponization of perception. He would make others destroy their own unity, all while remaining invisible. That is not just strategy, that is art. Rule 13. Mirror their hidden doubts. If you want control without confrontation, do not attack people's strength. Reflect their wounds, but do it gently. Do it with words so soft that they mistake them for empathy. Machiavelli understood the psychology of influence. He knew that people are not moved by power alone. They are moved by being seen. So instead of threats, he would offer subtle affirmations, crafted not to inspire confidence, but to echo hidden self-doubt. Phrases like, you always manage to shine, even when people overlook you, or you're surprisingly composed for someone so unsure. These are not insults, they are mirrors. They echo the silent fears people carry, but never voice. And when they feel seen in their insecurity, they begin to trust you, because they believe you understand them more than the world ever has. From that point on, you do not need to command them. They follow you naturally, pulled by the emotional gravity you've created. The Stoics teach us to master our inner reactions. Machiavelli went further. He turned the emotions of others into pathways for power. The one who can enter through insecurity never has to knock, because the door opens from the inside. Rule 14. Influence without dirtying your hands. In every calculated betrayal, the most dangerous man is not the one who strikes. It is the one who vanishes before the strike lands. Machiavelli never acted in haste, and never with his own hand. He planted ideas, shaped direction, and allowed others to carry out the consequences. If someone needed to fall, he ensured they stumbled on their own. He did not push. He merely placed the pebble in their path. Why? Because power earned through direct force creates resentment. But power that appears inevitable breeds acceptance. When a rival crumbled, it was never Machiavelli who swung the sword. He simply stepped in to clean up. Clean hands, unspoken influence. He knew that the true architect of chaos is the one who remains untouched by its fire. While the world searched for someone to blame, he had already stepped into the role of necessity. And necessity does not make enemies, it makes rulers. The Stoic may act with restraint to avoid impulsive harm. Machiavelli acted with restraint to avoid fingerprints. Power is not just about force. It is about the perception of innocence while standing in the center of design. Rule 15. Let silence reveal their secrets. In a room filled with voices, the one who listens commands the deepest authority. Machiavelli would walk into today's digital circus of opinions and instantly win by being the one who remains silent, not out of shyness, out of strategy. Because silence disarms, silence provokes, and most importantly, silence reveals. When insulted, he would remain calm. When asked to speak, he would smile and offer nothing. Because that nothing would become unbearable, the silence would pull words out of others like a vacuum, and in their eagerness to fill it, they would expose more than they intended. Their fears, their motives, their contradictions, all laid bare not by interrogation, but by absence. The Stoics taught that restraint is strength. Machiavelli turned that restraint into a weapon. Because in silence there is room for projection. And when people project, they hand you the blueprint to their minds. You do not need to force the truth. You only need to be still enough for it to emerge on its own. That is not passivity. That is command without noise. That is power without a single word. Rule 16. Be predictably unpredictable. Power is not found in chaos. It is found in strategic uncertainty. Machiavelli would never act out of impulse, but he understood the danger of being too consistent. Predictability becomes a map others use against you. If they always know when you will speak, they will talk over your silence. If they always know when you will forgive, they will test your patience without fear. If they always know you will rise above, they will set the stage beneath your feet. That is why unpredictability is not a mood. It is a weapon used with precision. Sometimes you reply instantly. Sometimes you vanish without a word. Sometimes you meet confrontation with calm. Other times, you let silence burn louder than any retaliation. The goal is not to confuse, but to remain unreadable. Because the person no one can anticipate is the person no one can trap. The Stoics taught us to be unmoved by emotion, but Machiavelli added this: become unreadable in action, not erratic, intentional, because fear does not come from aggression, it comes from uncertainty, and when they cannot calculate you, they cannot control you. Rule 17. Leave a presence that echoes in absence. To dominate minds, you do not need to be physically present. You need to linger in thought, to become the voice they hear even when you are not speaking. This is the power of psychological presence. Machiavelli would not dominate with volume. He would dominate by becoming the standard, the unseen compass in every decision they make. How does this work? You correct them once, and they continue correcting themselves long after you're gone. You move with such discipline and precision that your silence becomes more authoritative than others' commands. They celebrate victories, but in the back of their mind, they wonder how you would have done it. They enter new partnerships, but measure them against the memory of your judgment. This is not ego, this is impact. You do not haunt with threats. You echo through the expectations you left behind. The Stoic leaves little trace, but the Machiavellian crafts his absence like a monument. Not to be mourned, but to be measured against. This is the legacy that makes even your shadow command the room. Rule 18. Let imagination do the threatening. Threats are a confession of intent, and intent, once revealed, can be blocked. Machiavelli would never declare destruction. He would allow the imagination of others to destroy them for him. Why shout when silence does more damage? If someone lies to your face, you do not confront. You pause, you look. You leave that silence suspended and let their mind race. If someone crosses you, you do not promise retribution. You simply make one subtle move, one unanswered message, one unexplained absence, then nothing. And that nothing becomes everything. Because when fear is born from imagination, it grows without limits. They do not fear what you said. They fear what you might do. They fear what you are already doing behind closed doors. And in that fear, they begin to reshape themselves. Not out of loyalty, but out of survival. The Stoic uses inner mastery to remain composed. Machiavelli uses that same composure to let others unravel on their own. Let your silence become the storm. Let your absence become their obsession. You never need to threaten what they are already afraid of losing. Rule 19. Delay revenge until it hurts most. Machiavelli never wasted energy on impulsive retaliation. He believed that the most effective revenge is not immediate. It is measured, it is delayed, and when it comes, it is unforgettable. When someone wronged him, he did not explode. He observed. He let them breathe easy. He let them believe they escaped, and in their comfort, they dropped their guard. Then, when the moment struck, he acted with precision. No rage, just results. The Stoics teach us not to be ruled by emotion. Machiavelli turned that restraint into power, because when you delay your response, you steal their peace. They win today, but lose sleep tomorrow. And that silence, that waiting, becomes the blade they never see coming. Rule 20. Become the system they depend on. Power built on personality fades, but power built into systems becomes unremovable. Machiavelli never sought fame. He sought structure. He became the way things worked, the voice in the strategy, the hand behind the policy. That is the modern move. Train others in your logic. Install your values in their routines. Make your way of thinking the default setting in every room you leave. So even if they try to remove your name, they still follow your blueprint. That is not popularity. That is permanence. Rule 21. Become the name they fear to speak. The final stage of influence is not fame, it is myth. Machiavelli would walk so deeply into their minds that they feared invoking him, not out of respect, but out of survival. They would reference him without saying his name. They would warn others with stories wrapped in caution. Because true power does not shout. It lingers, it haunts. It becomes the unspoken force shaping decisions long after you are gone. You don't need to chase power when you become the reason the room changes. Linger quietly, move precisely, let respect find you. Subscribe if this spoke to you. Comment, stay unseen, keep rising.